The war ended in hours. When humans entered the fight a battle beyond human understanding. Wars in the vastness of space are nothing like those on Earth. They are fought across incomprehensible distances between civilizations that have mastered energy weapons, hyper-advanced strategies, and battlefield tactics that make human warfare look primitive. Yet, despite all of this, there was one war, one devastating galaxy-spanning conflict that ended within hours when humans finally joined the fight. The war had already raged for centuries before humanity even knew about it. The combatants were two interstellar superpowers, the Krevar Dominion and the Zalari Conglomerate, both ancient species that had spent millennia developing their war machines. Their fleets numbered in the trillions, their weapons could shatter moons, and their strategies involved manipulating gravity itself to bend battlefields to their will. Yet, despite their technological prowess, their war had reached a deadlock. Neither side could gain the upper hand, and countless solar systems had been reduced to little more than floating debris in space. It was a war of attrition, a conflict where neither side could afford to retreat, yet neither could find a way to break through. Then, in the midst of this struggle, a new factor entered the equation: humanity. The arrival of the most unpredictable species. At first, humanity was nothing more than a distant observer. The Unified Earth Directorate, the governing body of human-controlled space, had remained neutral, watching the war from a distance. They had only recently discovered the full extent of interstellar politics, and despite their technological advancements, they were nowhere near as advanced as the Krevar or the Zalari. Their ships were smaller, their energy weapons less efficient, and their numbers insignificant compared to the titanic fleets of the warring factions. Yet, something about humans unsettled both the Krevar and the Zalari. It wasn't their technology. It wasn't their weapons. It was their unpredictability. To the elder species, war was a precise, calculated science. They relied on vast AI networks to predict enemy movements. They followed centuries-old doctrines of engagement, and every battle was fought with strategic caution. But humans? Humans were erratic, emotional, and, most importantly, they were willing to fight dirty. When the Krevar first encountered human soldiers in small-scale skirmishes, they dismissed them as insignificant. After all, what could a young species with only a few hundred colonies possibly do against a civilization that had existed for over 1,000,000 years? But then, the impossible happened. In one battle after another, human forces won. Not through superior firepower, but through something alien to both the Krevar and the Zalari: brutal, unorthodox tactics that no AI or war doctrine had ever accounted for. The turning point. The Battle of Valtrex 9. The Krevar and Zalari had been fighting over Valtrex 9, a heavily industrialized world that served as a key manufacturing hub for the war. The planet had been bombarded so many times that its surface had become an uninhabitable wasteland. However, its underground cities still held immense strategic value. Both sides had been engaged in a prolonged siege, neither able to fully claim the planet. That changed the moment the Unified Earth Directorate deployed a single battalion of human special forces onto the surface. The Krevar and Zalari expected them to use traditional tactics, fortify key positions, fight in organized ranks, and engage in large-scale battles. Instead, what they encountered was something completely foreign. Humans did not fight wars the way other species did. They didn't rely on massive, slow-moving armies. Instead, they moved in small, highly trained squads, using guerrilla tactics that exploited every weakness in their enemy's strategy. They didn't engage in prolonged battles. They struck fast, using overwhelming force in short, brutal engagements, before disappearing into the ruins of the battlefield. Within the first 4 hours of their deployment, the human forces had infiltrated and destroyed 3 key command centers, eliminated hundreds of enemy officers, and disabled the primary planetary shield generator, something neither the Krevar nor the Zalari had managed to do in years of fighting. But the real shock came when human soldiers ignored every established rule of war. They hacked into enemy communication lines, spreading false orders that led to entire enemy units attacking their own side. They used biological warfare, deploying engineered viruses that specifically targeted Krevar and Zalari physiology, rendering their soldiers useless within minutes. They weaponized the environment itself, rigging buildings with explosives in ways that defied all known military logic. The result? Within a matter of 6 hours, the entire warfront collapsed. The Krivar and Zalari forces, confused, disoriented, and suffering catastrophic losses, began retreating. And then, something happened that had never happened in the history of interstellar warfare. Both factions simultaneously called for a ceasefire. War that had lasted for centuries, consuming billions of lives, ended within mere hours of human intervention. But how? What was it about human warfare that made even the most advanced civilizations surrender so quickly? The unsettling truth about human warfare. The answer lay in something that no other species could comprehend: the human mindset in war. Unlike the Krevar and the Zalari, who saw war as a strategic game, humanity saw war as something far more primitive, far more personal. Humans did not fight for glory or for calculated gains. They fought with a ferocity, a desperation, and a willingness to sacrifice everything that was simply beyond the understanding of other species. The Krevar and Zalari fought to win. Humans fought to annihilate. When a Krevar commander reviewed the human battlefield reports, he famously stated, "We have spent millennia mastering the art of war, only to realize that humans have spent their entire existence perfecting the art of destruction." It wasn't just the weapons. It wasn't just the tactics. It was the sheer, terrifying resolve that humans brought to the battlefield. And as the galactic community watched the war come to a sudden, unexpected end, one question began to spread across every known civilization. Had humanity just proven itself to be the most dangerous species in the universe? The galaxy reacts to humanity's unmatched warfare. The sudden collapse of the Krevar-Solari War sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Entire civilizations that had once viewed humanity as an insignificant young species now scrambled to reassess their stance. The sheer efficiency and brutality with which humans dismantled the warfront was unlike anything recorded in interstellar history. News of the war's abrupt end spread across the galactic network, reaching the governing bodies of hundreds of advanced species. Some dismissed it as an anomaly, a stroke of luck, or an unexpected coincidence. But those who examined the battle reports in detail saw the chilling reality. Humanity had rewritten the very rules of war in a matter of hours. The most concerning aspect? It wasn't just their weapons. It wasn't just their tactics. It was their mindset. For millions of years, interstellar wars had been fought under an unspoken agreement. War was controlled, regulated, and followed a predictable pattern. Even the most advanced civilizations still adhered to a form of strategic restraint, ensuring that wars remained manageable, predictable, and contained. The galactic community had long believed that war, no matter how destructive, should never escalate beyond a certain threshold. But humans ignored those thresholds completely. Where the Krevar and Zalari sought victory, humans sought total dominance. Where other species would retreat to regroup, humans would dig in and fight to the last soldier. Where AI-driven tactics favored precision, humans embraced chaos, improvisation, and sheer force of will. The realization of this truth sent the galactic community into a silent panic. If humanity was capable of ending a centuries-old war in mere hours, what would happen if they ever became the enemy? 6. The failed attempt to understand humanity's military doctrine. In the months following the war, the Galactic Council, a powerful interstellar governing body, attempted to decipher humanity's military doctrine. They invited the top human strategists to high-level discussions, hoping to analyze and categorize their approach to war. What they received in return only deepened their concerns. When a Krevar war analyst asked a human general, "What is the primary philosophy of human warfare?" the response was disturbingly simple: win by any means necessary. The answer baffled the council. It was too vague, too open-ended. Every species had doctrines, principles that governed when to fight, how to fight, and when to surrender. But humanity's response implied there were no rules, no limits. A Zalari strategist asked, "How does humanity define acceptable casualties?" A human admiral responded, "There's no such thing. We don't think in acceptable losses. We think in victory conditions." This concept was horrifying to species that had long since abandoned total war. While most civilizations saw battles as strategic engagements with controlled objectives, humans saw them as fights for survival, no matter the scale, no matter the cost. To confirm these theories, the Galactic Council conducted psychological analyses of human soldiers. What they discovered was even more unsettling. Humans showed an unparalleled adaptability in combat, capable of making instant decisions that AI systems struggled to predict. Their stress tolerance was abnormally high, allowing them to remain functional in conditions that would send other species into mental collapse. They had an innate ability to weaponize unpredictability, constantly altering their strategies, forcing their enemies into confusion. One report, submitted by a Zalari intelligence officer, summarized the findings in the most chilling way possible. A human soldier fights as if every battle is their last. A human army fights as if every war is their extinction. 7. The unspoken agreement. Never fight the humans. As the Galactic Council deliberated on their findings, a quiet, unofficial consensus began forming among the most powerful civilizations. Humanity must never become an enemy. This realization led to an immediate shift in galactic politics. Treaties were rewritten, diplomatic channels were reinforced, and multiple civilizations, some of which had long histories of war with each other, quietly established non-aggression pacts with Earth. The Krevar and Zalari, once bitter enemies, found themselves in an unusual position. Neither side could accept the shame of having their war ended by an outsider, let alone a species they had previously deemed irrelevant. But neither side could deny the undeniable truth. Humanity had ended their war not through superior technology, but through sheer strategic brutality. Some factions within the Council debated whether humanity should be contained, monitored, or even preemptively neutralized, but no species dared to provoke them. The war had shown that humans, despite their relative youth in the galactic community, held a power that no one could counter, an unpredictable, unstoppable will to win at any cost. Over the following months, an unspoken rule settled over the galaxy: no one, under any circumstances, should go to war with humanity. However, one final question remained. If humans could end a centuries-long war in hours, what would happen if they ever decided to start one? The fear of human-led warfare. The shockwaves from the human intervention in the Krevar-Zalari War did not fade with time. If anything, they grew stronger. The Galactic Council, once confident in its control over interstellar conflicts, now lived under the shadow of a terrifying possibility. What if humans decided to wage a war of their own? Throughout history, every dominant species had, at some point, sought expansion through conquest. The Krevar had once subjugated entire star systems with overwhelming technological might. The Zalari had used economic and political manipulation to absorb weaker civilizations into their empire. War, to these species, had always been a means of power, a tool of control. But humans? Humans had demonstrated something completely different. They didn't just fight wars, they ended them. The fear was not that humanity would seek conquest. The fear was that if humanity ever declared a war, it wouldn't be a war. It would be an extinction event. The hidden power. Humanity had always possessed. At first, many believed humanity's military prowess was a direct result of their relatively young and violent history. After all, Earth had endured countless wars, from ancient tribal conflicts to global-scale confrontations. Their history was riddled with battles that had shaped their very evolution. But upon closer analysis, xenologists realized something far more unsettling. Humanity's deadliest weapon was not their technology or their strategies. It was their mentality. Unlike other species, who saw war as a political tool, humans saw war as survival. A genetic instinct honed over millennia. Unlike civilizations that sought victory through calculated precision, humans embraced chaos, sacrifice, and unpredictability. Unlike species that waged war under strategic doctrines, humans fought with a terrifying emotional intensity that defied logic. The most advanced war simulations ever created struggled to predict human battle outcomes. AI-driven warfare models, which had successfully simulated thousands of interstellar battles between different species, failed repeatedly when humans were introduced into the equation. No supercomputer could accurately model their actions because humans refused to follow predictable patterns. One Krivar historian famously wrote, "It is not that humans do not fear war. It is that they fear losing more than any other species ever has." This insight changed everything. The Galactic Council quickly realized that humans did not need to expand their territory through conquest. They did not need to flex their military power. The mere idea of human warfare was enough to keep entire empires in check, and that was when the true power of humanity became apparent. The war that never began, the galaxy's ruling civilizations quietly began restructuring their entire approach to diplomacy with Earth. The unspoken agreement, never fight the humans, evolved into something even more profound. Never give humans a reason to fight. Trade agreements were suddenly made more favorable to humanity. Negotiations between species that had once dismissed humans as irrelevant now gave them a seat at the table. Borders that had once been contested with Earth colonies were quickly redrawn to avoid conflict. All of it was done with a singular purpose: preventing humanity from ever seeing a war as necessary. The Galactic Council understood that if humanity ever viewed another civilization as a genuine threat, there would be no chance for peace. There would be no controlled battles. There would be no treaties. There would only be total war, and total war with humans was a war that no species could survive. A universe, forever changed. As years passed, the legend of the war that ended in hours became one of the most studied events in galactic history. Scholars, politicians, and military leaders across the stars debated how a young species could hold such a disproportionate influence on interstellar warfare. Some believed that humans had simply been lucky, that their unorthodox tactics had worked because the Krivar and Zalari had been unprepared for them. Others argued that luck had nothing to do with it, that human warfare was so deeply ingrained into their very existence that no amount of preparation could ever truly counter it. But regardless of the theories, one fact remained undeniable. Humanity had forever altered the balance of power in the galaxy, not through conquest, not through diplomacy, but through the sheer, undeniable fact that no civilization could afford to fight them. And so, in a galaxy that had once dismissed them as insignificant, humanity became known by a new title, one whispered across war rooms, political chambers, and military academies alike: the species that ended wars. Because the moment humans entered the fight, the war was already over.